air, the heat, the sea, the fire, the vibe, the bomb, the songs, the arms. For God, this a generation. For God, we are a generation. For God, you can see it in my eyes.
Alright, y'all, welcome to another episode. HFOG.com, of course, HFOG TV, and I have Ernest here on the Ernest, and he has an awesome story. I'm totally Vigil. So we have Ernest Vigil here on the set. Oh, yeah. Is that all? Alright, so we just changed locations because we were outside and it just started out of nowhere raining, and I'm like, get my camera equipment out of there. So anyway, forget about the people, worry about the camera. So excuse the interruption and please proceed.
The Christmas came, my son came up from Colorado from Minnesota, and I took them skiing for Christmas present. We're coming from Florida, going up to Mount 13,000 feet or however high it was up there. Just before that, I went in, saw a doctor, and they were treating me for bronchitis. They didn't catch that I had a lung infection, something was going on in my lungs. So we get to the ski slope, I get to the top, I'm struggling trying to suck air in, I'm sucking air. And I looked at my friend, Scott, and I'm like, looked at him and I'm not feeling it. There's something wrong. After that, it was all what he told me. I blacked out, I don't recall anything that went on. And he said, let's go down to the parking lot where we'll meet up, and then let's just get out of here. So we went down the parking lot. We went to the wrong parking lot. The truck wasn't there, but we actually went to the right parking lot. That was where the emergency medical center was there at Vigil. I was walking up behind him. He said I dropped my skis and poles. He told me I was complaining worse than his wife. I hope she doesn't see this, but I dropped my skis and the poles, and I went down. I gashed my chin, and of course all this I have no recollection. Apparently there was a woman that was outside shooting the EMT. She came running up and asked if I needed help. She thought I needed help. I said yeah. So right away she started CPR. After that, I was really pushing from my mouth, apparently coming from my lungs. This is what a doctor was telling me at this point, later on. That my lungs was filled up with fluid, I got double pneumonia. The altitude control there extended the problem with my infection in my lungs. In essence, my heart couldn't push blood through my lungs, so it stopped. The stress of that stopped my heart. The EMT started working on me, and then two guys came running out, and they had the shocker. Scott said that they didn't even, I believe that they didn't even ask. They came out, and they shocked me, and
Okay, this is crazy. So this is our second time moving. First time obviously was from the outside into the inside part of outside Starbucks, and now we are literally inside Starbucks because I was rain trying to get on my camera equipment, and that's not happening. So the enemy is trying to get us not to put this testimony out, but we will prevail.
Amen. We will.
So moving on, part 3.
Okay. I believe I left off at EMS and being shot back to life, and then Flight for Life down to St. Anthony's Hospital in Denver from Keystone. Yeah, I have no recollection of any of this. I was told by the first nurse, who happened to be my very last nurse, leaving the hospital. She said when I came through the doors, she said, "We had no hope for you at all. We were probably just going to waste our time on you." And one of my sons was also informed to start making funeral arrangements. I was in a hospital for, well, about 6 weeks altogether. However, I was in a coma for 3 of those weeks, in which I died 3 different times. I think the last time I died, was the time that my son was informed about that, to make funeral arrangements, and the doctor had told my family that they've done everything they could. They have wasted every I can't even think of the word. They've done everything.
Yeah.
So anyway, with that said, one of the things I really want the world to understand is that I had several visions, and the visions I had were as though I was talking to you. I mean, they were real. I remember someone close to me saying something. I could feel the breath. I felt the sunshine. I felt the cold. I could smell smells. It was very real, very real.
So you're talking about like what you had visions of heaven?
Yes, yes.
When you passed on?
Yes. I was in a coma for 3 weeks. And in that 3 weeks I went through a number of visions. I can't exactly tell you how long they were because I had no sense of time. But I did have a vision of going to China. It was like I was there in the midst of, they were having a parade, and they were soldiers. It was impressive. This army was massive, and it was like they were arming and preparing for war. And then I went to Russia, and I remember seeing, the military jets and rockets, a display of them, plus the airplane. The only way I could describe it was kind of like an air show, and it was very, very impressive. And it seemed like, and I believe they were gearing up for war as well. I then went to the Middle East, and I don't know why Iran is coming to the picture. I don't recall seeing Iran, but I was in the Middle East, and they were also gearing up for war. And they didn't have the numbers or the technology that Russia had, but you could see they were mobilizing, and I knew that they were heading for Israel. I knew they were going there. I can't explain what it was or how I knew that. Then I went to Europe, and I saw the European nations. They were gearing up for defenses. They were not building armies to take on the army. They were building up defenses.
And when you say you went to these places, you're saying in the spirit you were there.
I was there, as though I was right there watching these things unfold right before my eyes.
Okay.
And then the United States was the only way I could say is that they were arguing and they were concerned about the freedoms that we have, that we may be losing, and it was all focused on policies that were going on within the United States. It's like they just tuned out the world and what was going on. And after all this happened, I became very worried in a sense. I was very concerned, and all of a sudden I came to a beach, and I believe it was the Mediterranean Sea, and Jesus was on his knee, and he was in deep prayer, and I wanted so badly to go kind of like shake him, you know, but he was in prayer, and I didn't want to do that. I just respected, you know, that he was praying, but I walked around and I was very impatient. I wanted to say, aren't you going to do anything? Aren't you worried about what's going on in this world right now? And I had all these thoughts going through my mind. And then all of a sudden it was like I was, you know, like, I don't know, 100,000 miles from Earth. And I was looking at Earth, this little blue marble, you know, blue marble, and you could barely see the moon next to it. It was kind of behind the Earth, but just part of the moon you could see. And I was looking at it, and it's kind of funny, I kind of hold my breath, I think, or something, you know, and I started going, oh, you can breathe out here. I don't know why I did that, but anyway, it was kind of, you know, because it was so real. And I was breathing, and I was looking, I was just looking at the earth, and then all of a sudden the Lord put his hands around the earth. And I was, at that moment in time, the fear and that anxiety had left me. It was the way the Lord had spoke to me. He didn't have to speak to me. A lot of the things when I heard or saw that dealt with Jesus, he never spoke to me. It was he showed me. You know, and when he showed me his hands that engulfed the earth, I knew in my heart that he was in control. That God is in total control. And those armies are nothing to him. You know, not to worry or be concerned about what's coming. But the most important thing that we need to be concerned about is reaching our fellow brothers and sisters, our fellow man, to reach into every corner and share the gospel. I believe that we're getting to a time and place where this time, this day is going to end. You know, and I'm not saying feeling a sense of urgency, but feeling a sense of we need to pray for the harvesters. The harvest is so ripe right now, and so many people. And I hope that if any of you hear what I'm talking about, only you are going to be able to reach those corners, because only you are in those areas where your friends, your families, and all those that your loved ones. And you know, we're not going to be there. And I'm praying that you guys will be bold in your witnessing and your sharing, to share Jesus, because this time is coming. You know, the lamps, you better have your lamp full. I believe that the ark is almost completed. You know, like Jesus said, in those days it'd be like the days of Noah, where everybody was going about their business, like, you know, nonchalantly, going about everyday life. You know, and that we talk about, well, Father said he'd be coming. Well, they've been saying that ever since, you know, the dawn of time. Well, he's coming, and you better be ready. I'm praying that you'll hear this and take it to heart.
You said you had another vision where you met.
Yeah, I met Lucifer. I'll tell you what. I walked into this room, and it was like a massive warehouse building. There were monitors that totally were in every corner, every space of that area.
Monitors?
Yes, they're like monitors. It's amazing. It was like, if you walked up close to one, it was like looking in a window. It wasn't a flat screen or anything, but it was like looking into a window.
So basically monitoring everything in the earth?
Everything on the earth, yes. And I looked at this guy, and he was walking by me, and I go, excuse me, what is this place? And he looked over and he pointed at Lucifer and said, well, go ask Lucifer. And I thought, Lucifer? The only one thought came to mind. So I walked over, and here he was. I mean, he was a handsome dude. Well fit. I'd say maybe mid-30, just in the prime of his life. You know, I looked at him and I thought, man, this guy would be, you know, maybe somebody I'd even hang out with. You know, he just seemed real pleasant, well-dressed, you know, very muscular, and he had this entourage of women around him, beautiful, beautiful women around him. And I walked over to him and I said, "So you're Lucifer?" And he would not look at me directly in the face. He always kind of kept me at his peripheral. He wouldn't look at me directly, and so he kind of looked over his shoulder, and he said, "The one and only," very cocky, like, you know, the one and only. As I looked around and I looked in this room, I would look at some of the pictures and I would see, you know, like kids contemplating robbing a store, or, you know, somebody just being very disrespectful to a parent. I saw people drinking in a bar, and I walked up kind of close, and I watched as they were drinking these drinks. There was some kind of proteins or something that was added to these drinks to enhance, you know, a high, but it didn't. There was, I don't know if there was alcohol involved in this, but this was some kind of futuristic drink that they were drinking. That, and that's all I could think. And the guy took a drink, you know, watched, and he just kind of, whoa, you know, it was like obviously he had some kind of super rush or something. You know, anyway, I was noticing all this stuff, and you know, he was kind of basically just, look what I got, man. This world's mine. You know, it was evident that he was trying to show that he's got a firm grip on the earth, on this world, and he does. And I saw some very lustful, you know, things that were going on in these monitors, but I looked over kind of in the corner and I saw this. It was bigger than a monitor. It was kind of a lot larger than, and it was a place in the corner where I saw these like burnt out buildings, a wasteland. I saw ash, and there it was as though there were people foraging through this ash, looking for substance, looking for anything that they could eat or drink, and it was a futile attempt to try and satisfy something, you know, very hungry hunger. And he tried to distract me from looking at this. You know, he tried to distract me, and you know, and I just kind of really was looking at this, and I knew that as he used up people and used up the resources, this is where it ended up. And it was like, it was a very bleak, very wasteland is the only way I could explain it. And maybe it was a picture of, you know, I couldn't tell whether it was hot there or whatever, but there were people that just foraging through this ash, looking for something but couldn't find anything. And you know, at this point, I looked at Lucifer, and I just said, I gotta go. But I had this thought just before I turned around and said that I wanted so badly to tell him that, you know, your days are numbered. You know, this ain't gonna happen forever. Your days. I felt like saying that. You know, I felt like saying Jesus was gonna kick his hinder. You know, but those were thoughts that I really. Because I remembered, you know, I remember a lot of stuff from the Bible I read. Like, for instance, when, you know, Satan confronted, I don't know if it was Michael the Archangel, concerning Moses' body, where he didn't even confront Satan, he just said, "The Lord rebuke you," you know. And I just said, "Gotta go." And I turned around, and I just didn't want to mess with him. Anyway, I turned around and started walking away from that. And I thought I heard a snap. And he said, these two women after me, and they were beautiful. One was blonde, she had blue eyes, and the other one was kind of a brunette, kind of a darkish red-haired woman, very beautiful, brown eyes. And they came over to me and they were kind of flirting with me, and I knew what their heart was. You know, here I am in the presence of Lucifer, and I want to keep my heart right because nothing's worth going to hell for. You know, and I just sensed that they were trying to cause me to stumble. And so I turned around and I pushed them away and I took off running, and the blonde tackled me. You know, I went down and I'm trying to fight her off, and the other one came up, and I remember I started to get up, and the blonde, you know, reached for my pants, and I hit her as hard as I could, and I even felt that, you know, I hit her so hard, and I knocked her off me. And a couple other things happened, you know, just a struggle that went on, and I got away, and I just took off. I went to the nearest door and went through it. And then I went into another vision at that point. Like I said, I died 3 different times. I remember the first time, and I'm just kind of piecing this because people told me, the doctor said that, you know, they did everything they could from all this, everything that I was informed about. And I had 3 different times where I went down to, and I'm saying it was the Jordan River. It was a beautiful little creek, and it was clear, and there were stones that went across it. And I went to it, and I walked up to the edge, and I could smell like the mud and the green around this area. And I could smell it, and I could sense the heat. And it was just on the other side of the river, or the creek, it looked like heaven. You know, there was a little path that went up that went up to the top, and it was bright, and there were green. It just looked so lush and so beautiful. And I knew if I crossed that creek, I knew my life was going to be over. I was in a coma. I had no idea what was going on. But I knew in my heart that if I crossed this creek, my life was going to end. And believe me, I wasn't afraid to cross it. But I stopped and I looked up and I said, Lord, do you want me to come home? And I didn't get anything, nothing. It was just silent. You could hear the water trickling and the flowing of the water and all this stuff. And you could hear birds, and it was pretty cool. And then, I don't know, maybe the second time that I was pronounced dead or had died, I went down to this river again. Like, it was a creek, really, is what it was. And just before I got there, I remember praying. I had got on my knees and I was praying and said, Lord, you know, I'm tired of doing things my way. I want to do what you want me to do. Lord, help me to be, you know, a servant. Help me to do what you want me to do. And I'm always wanting my way, kind of like, not really, but I want to do things my way sometimes. You know, kind of get in the way of God, if you know what I mean. And I prayed. I said, Lord, if you want me to come home, your will be done, not mine. And I went down to the creek, walked up, and I looked across. I was waiting, just give me a sign, Lord, whatever, and I'm there. And again, nothing happened. So there was the third time that apparently, now remember, this is all what I've been informed of, that was going on while I was in this coma. They had me in a reticulating bed that kept me, they clamped me into it or something. And what that was supposed to do is get my lungs, the fluids to move around so it wouldn't be stable, and to help my lungs. I was on life support. I don't even know. This is just stuff I heard. Anyway, the third time that I died, this one was, I think, the closest. I remember praying and asking the Lord, not my will, but your will be done. Just give me a sign. If you want me to come over, I'm there. So I went down to the creek again. And I was looking at the water, and it was beautiful, like crystal clear. Maybe a little tinge of brown in it, but it was really, really neat. And the path where it goes across the river and went up this little path that went up. I looked up to heaven, and I said, Lord, do you want me to come home? And I looked over, and it was like somebody had put a plaque with my name on the other side of the river. And I go, is that it, Lord? Is that your sign you want me to? And it said, hi, Ernie.
It said hired?
Hi, Ernie.
Hi, Ernie.
Yeah, hi, Ernie.
Hi, Ernie. Yeah.
And I don't know, if somebody that is in heaven put that sign down there for me to look at, and I was looking at it, and I go, Lord, is that my sign? Well, the third time that apparently that I died, they had told my family that there was no more hope. My oldest son was told to start planning funeral arrangements, and or something like that. This again, I'm trying to recollect all the things I've told. And it was, my one brother said that the doctor told him that they've done everything they could. They've used up every facet of their known abilities to, and I was progressively getting worse. I think at this point when I got down to the river and I looked across, and I remember my toes being in the water. I remember the coolness, because I don't know if I hadn't had any water in a while, but I was kind of parched at this point, and I wanted just to drink some water, but I didn't feel led to do it. And I didn't hear the voice, but I felt it inside me. It said, not now, son. It's not your time. And I think from that point, because that was the very last thing I remember being in that coma. I think at this point in time that I started to get better. And God would send me back. And that was the end of my 3 weeks in a coma. I went to rehab, and they were expecting me to be in there anywhere from a month to 3 months, because I couldn't walk. I was unable to do a lot of things physically for myself. But my strength came back in leaps and bounds. I got up and started moving around and walking, and the respiratory therapist and another respiratory doctor came in, and they were just impressed that I went from being on oxygen full time to 97% oxygen on my own, and they were just impressed by that. The one guy, one of the nurses came by, oh, you're a miracle. Man, 1 week you're here and they're ready to let you go. I've heard them talking about you progressed so well. And it was just, I believe it was the Lord just answering so many prayers that so many people around, in Africa, all throughout the United States, Europe, around the world were praying for me, missionary friends and stuff. I told them I was a heaven reject, but I know in my heart that these visions, and there were more, there were a lot more, Those were the three I thought, you know, were important that I should get these out. And what's really awesome is last night when we were at Carrabba's, you know, I was talking to John. He wants to write a book. We were sitting down talking about that. And then you come over and you wanted to interview it, and how God is providing all these, you know, these venues for me to get my story out. It's his story, but I just happen to be a witness in all. So I've been blessed this whole time.
Yeah. If there was one message that you wanted to get out to the world from these visions and from what's happened to you, what do you think that message is?
I would probably reiterate what I said earlier. You know, be faithful, be bold in your witness for Jesus. Start sharing your heart. Seek the Lord while there's still time. There's, you know, a lot of our friends and our families, and God, you know, I know sometimes our families don't listen to us, but that others would be involved and get involved and come to them and share with them, because, like I said, time is short. And like I said, the ark is built. Make sure your lamp's filled with oil. You know, those are the things that came to mind a lot. That I believe that he's coming soon. A lot sooner than we are. You know, that the signs in the heaven, we know in our hearts. It's like you know, Jesus said, we know the signs of the times, that when, you know, springtime, that spring will soon be here, or winter, or whatever. And we see those seasons. And I believe that we're at the end of a season right now and getting ready to go into another season of God's calling. And I believe, you know, those prophecies that were spoken of these days, that knowledge would be abounding very much. That sin would abound. That things that are good would be considered evil, and evil good. We're in those days. You know, and I believe that, you know, we need to be faithful. We need to encourage each other and build up the body of Christ. And if I could say anything to anybody, is know where your heart is with Jesus. That is essential right now, to keep your heart right and be faithful in all that you do.
Well, thank you so much for coming on our show. This has been another testimony. What's the book? You know what the book's title is going to be?
Well, we're working on that. You know, that book, there's a little kid, and it's a golden book. I saw it in Publix, popular grocery store here. Said heaven's real. Heaven is real, but so is hell. Hell is very real. And Satan, Lucifer, he's real.
Amen. Well, again, this has been another episode of Testimony Tuesday on HFOG TV. My name is Juke from JUKWorld.com. As well as the creator of the Hip Hop Gospels at hiphopholybible.com. It's the Gospels Rap. And holyfireofgod.com, HFOG TV. And we'll see you next Tuesday for another episode of Testimony Tuesday. God bless y'all.
God bless.
Yeah, the heat, the sea, the fire, the bog, the bomb, the psalms, the arms for God. This a generation for God. We are a generation for God. You can see it in my eyes. The trials, the passion is real. When I'm fasting, I'm smashing you cats with the seal. This a generation for God. We are a generation for God. Yeah. Yo, I was the chief sinner, slave. I even complained about Jesus's